Ano?
Okay.
Card. Kanino ba yan? We have good shows here.
Yes, Mrs. Aquino, your husband has new hope now as a result of the Supreme Court decision restraining the military tribunal from further hearing that case. How do you feel about that? Are you hopeful now that perhaps the case is going to be resolved one way or the other soon?
Well, I don't know about the soon part, but one thing I'm grateful for is that at least the family, my children and I, and my husband, will have a relatively happy Christmas. Otherwise, we would have to be going to the military commission from the 19th to the 29th.
What was your husband's reaction to the unanimous decision by the court? Did he tell you what he felt about that?
Well, before the Wednesday and Thursday Supreme Court hearings, I had asked him, what do you think we can expect? And then he said he didn't even want to speculate on that, although he was hoping, in view of the fact that the Supreme Court has the final say as far as the death sentence is concerned, that we would have a restraining order from them. So he was very happy.
How do you interpret that decision by the court?
Well, I think it was inevitable because, number one, it wasn't clear just what kind of rehearing or reopening of the military court proceedings was going to take place. And then the fact that my husband had not asked for a reopening or a rehearing, I think one of the justices pointed that out. Normally, if the accused asks for a hearing, then based on the proceedings, they usually give it. But in this case, my husband was saying that he had not asked for it. In fact, he did not want the fatal errors which the military commission had committed to be corrected.
I must say you look remarkably composed, considering all the circumstances about this case.
Oh, well, I think I would describe my life now as a roller coaster of emotions. You know, we have our very bad days, and well, it's all I can do to keep up at least, well, a brave front for the children's sake. And then maybe 5 years is a long time. You know, the mind and the body learn how to accept these things. And we have great faith that God will see us through all this.
Most people know your husband as a political opponent of Mr. Marcos. They don't know very much about the charges against your husband of murder and subversion. I wonder if you could explain why your husband might have been charged with these offenses and what has been the evidence to date. Your husband was, I believe, the first person arrested under martial law 5 years ago, so this case has certainly been going on for quite a while.
Well, that's correct. In fact, in the Supreme Court, my husband stated, fact number one is that President Marcos announced on nationwide television a year before martial law that he had overwhelming evidence against my husband. And yet, while my husband, told him to go ahead and sue him in the civil courts, which were operating then and continue to operate now, Marcos did not file any charges until after he had declared martial law. And then the fact that the murder was allegedly committed in 1967, I think any normal person would just wonder why they took all this time.
What is this murder charge? I mean, what is that supposed to be relating to?
Well, number one, the victim or the alleged victim is a barrio captain. A barrio is a little village. And my husband is supposed to have ordered the NPA, these are the communists, to liquidate this barrio captain. Well, as far as motives go, I declare my husband has no motives, to want to get rid of this man. Because all through my husband's career in politics, this particular barrio captain has always delivered 90% or 95% of the votes for my husband. So what possible reason could my husband have for wanting him, liquidated?
What has been the evidence so far in that charge?
They were able to get the testimony of an ex-NPA member. On the basis of this testimony, which is really hearsay because he said he heard that my husband told the leader of the NPAs to liquidate this barrio captain. But the prosecution was not able to present anybody who saw the actual killing. I mean, nobody could testify who actually killed that man. In other words, okay, so here is a dead man, but who killed him? Nobody has been able to prove that.
What do you suppose President Marcos had in mind arresting your husband, presuming, of course, the charges are not true?
Well, you see, we all feel that especially on the illegal possession of firearms. Mr. Marcos himself has declared that there were, I think, more than 140 private armies, and yet nobody has been arrested, much less prosecuted. Only my husband has been arrested. So the only thing I can think of is because my husband was a potential political rival. So maybe that was the reason to discredit him. And then the murder charge to point to the rest of the world that here is my husband, not really a political prisoner, but a common criminal. I mean, that's the only way we can understand all these charges.
What about your family, yourself, your children? Have they been harassed at all by the government or government officials in any way in the past few years?
Well, in the beginning, I think, I was conscious of the fact that sometimes 2 cars or 3 cars would be trailing me. And I have to admit that it really unnerved me, and I wasn't sure.
Yes, your husband has been held for 5 years now by the security people and the government. Have you and your children and your mother perhaps been harassed at all by the government during this time?
Well, as I was saying, I noticed 2 or 3 military cars would follow me, but they made themselves very obvious, so I think it was just a question of warning me, not to do anything. Well, at that time, they were really discouraging me from talking to foreign correspondents, so I think that was it. But from that time on, I have not noticed anything unusual. Of course, my telephones are bugged. I know because they're never out of order. And if they are out of order, I get such good service.
So perhaps my phoning today to ask for an interview might have been recorded by the
Oh, I'm
government.
sure it has been duly recorded.
How are they treating your husband in prison? They're keeping him at a military prison, aren't they?
Well, as people always ask me about his living quarters, and on that score, I think, judging from the regular prisons, we have no cause to complain, except that his windows are blocked by plywood boards, so he doesn't see anything outside. And then he's only allowed 1 hour a day for exercise. The rest of the time, he is in his quarters, and the lock is on the outside. So anything like throwing out garbage, or he'd have to ask the guard to do that for him.
How well is he eating inside?
Oh, they've allowed me to send him food. I can send food every day if I want, so there's no problem as far as that's concerned.
And how often do you visit him?
We're allowed 3 visits a week, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. And this has been going on for the past 5 years, although there have been 2 instances where visits were suddenly called off, and I just had to wait until they decided to resume visiting privileges again.
Does your husband ever have any hope of re-entering politics in the Philippines, and do you still consider him a potential rival to President Marcos in the future?
Well, let me put it this way. Some people tell me precisely the reason my husband is being kept in jail because Marcos still considers him, maybe one of the leaders of the opposition. And perhaps if Marcos did not consider him such, so my friends point out, my husband would have been released very much sooner.
Well, what has your husband told you about his political future? Has he commented on that at all?
We're very fatalistic on that. If it is in his destiny to be entering politics again, well, he probably will. But let me just put it this way, he will also welcome a private life. After these 5 years, he feels the children and I, and he as well, owe it to ourselves to have some privacy.
But he hasn't ruled out politics.
I guess one never rules out anything in one's life. Let's say he's flexible as far as that's concerned.
What about the death sentence when that was passed? Was he genuinely surprised about that?
Oh,
And
yes.
what was his
Well,
reaction?
number one, we hadn't expected it, to be finished that soon. It was also sudden. And while we had prepared ourselves for a death sentence, still, when the actual day of reckoning comes, it's still a very painful and stunning experience, something I would not like to go through again.
Now, President Marcos brought up during his referendum campaign the fact that he had offered your husband an amnesty if he wished it, and he refused.
Well, I think if my husband will get amnesty, as the president puts it, he would have to accept guilt first for all of these charges against him. And my husband sincerely believes that he is innocent of all of these charges. And so he will just stick it out. If he is given amnesty, he wants amnesty with no conditions attached.
Well, what is the next step? The Supreme Court is only a temporary holding procedure. What happens next?
Well, we really don't know how the Supreme Court will act. They can order a retrial or something like that. Based on American jurisprudence, I understand that where there are certain and grave defects in the preceding trial, then the Supreme Court can order a new trial. And what my husband has always asked for from the very beginning is a trial by a civil court, since he is a civilian.
What if President Marcos, instead of offering an amnesty again, offered your husband